G'day guys, Mackie with the Outer Circle, and joining me today is Ego Queen Alexis. How are you going?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me.
No, my pleasure. So, I reached out to you the other day and said, hey, how would you feel about coming on the show and having a chat? And you were gracious enough to join me, so thank you very much for that.
Yeah, no problem.
And
I love the wargaming community. We're kind of like this little tight-knit family of nerds.
that's a good way of looking at it. A few people sort of like to say, why do you want to talk to this person or that person? It's like, I like to talk to everyone, because everyone's got a different opinion on things. And there's always something interesting you can learn if you ask the right people, so...
Very true.
And obviously, yourself, you're more into 8th edition, and you're also into the competitive side of play, which is sort of the opposite of myself, because I'm more into 30k and the narrative.
I wouldn't say that I'm a competitive player. I am a power player, yes. I kind of fully admit to that. But when it comes to the competitive scene, I used to be really competitive back in 5th edition. I won a few tournaments. Now in 8th edition, I'm trying to get into the bigger tournaments, ITC tournaments. I'm not going to participate in the tournament at Adepticon because I'm doing a fan meetup there. But I did just participate in my first 8th edition competitive game, and I found out that I am not the power player that I thought I was.
It's a funny addition for that. It's a real funny addition. No,
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, what you sort of do in the hobby, that kind of thing.
Well, my accent kind of gives me away. I'm from New York, born and raised on a playground named with... Okay, I'm going to stop right there and stop making that joke. Somebody in the comments is already raging at you. Well, me, for that remark. Anyway, I'm an all-around hobbyist. I cover almost every aspect of this game, from the lore perspective, to the miniatures, to battle reports, to just sitting around ranting and rambling about all the miniatures that I get to build and paint. I do have quite a few armies at my disposal at this point, and I really just enjoy the game.
Okay, so how did you get into Warhammer and Warhammer 40k?
All right, so like every other person, we have that fat nerdy friend. And you know that fat nerdy friend. He's your very classic neckbeard, Mountain Dew drinking, Dorito sweating, Mountain Dew nerd. That person. And one day, during a history class, back when I was in, I want to say 7th grade. I don't know what the equivalent of that would be for you. He was
Maybe early high school.
It is early high school. But he started talking about chainswords and space marines. And I was like, chainswords? Don't you just mean a chainsaw? Like, regardless of how you try to put that, it's still a chainsaw. And he's like, no, it's a chainsword. And I was sitting there, I'm like, no, it isn't. And he goes, all right, read this. And handed me what was it? It was the battle tome for the Ultramarines, the first omnibus of them. And one of these stories describes a chainsword really well. And I believe it was that book. I could be wrong on the book, so I apologize if I am. But I read it and I completely fell in love with the setting and everything, the grimdark atmosphere. It's very gothic, and I don't mean just like the clothing style. I mean kind of like the architecture and everything. It's heavily influenced by religion. It has all this iconography, and I really loved all of the ambience of it all. From then, I went to Europe and got on a school trip, and I bought my first Warhammer set at, I can't remember the name of the store, but just insert random store in London that I bought my stuff at. and I
Probably
bought
somewhere
the...
minor like Warhammer World. Or...
No, no, definitely not Warhammer World. I would know it. It was a basement store. It was a mom and pop shop, not just a 40K shop. And I bought the Battle for Macragge with my friend. He wanted the Tyranids, and I wanted the Space Marines, because I thought they were the coolest things in the world. And I painted them up, and they looked god-awful. But I was so proud of myself, and I fell in love with the game, and I've been playing it ever since.
Well, so it immediately captured you, basically.
It captured me in a way that, because I'm a judge for Magic the Gathering, I'm a judge for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hate those games. Those games, they're not as in-depth. Like, you can look at, like, I got a Sister of Battle in my hand. I got a Sister Superior. She's holding a power sword, wearing her power armor, and she's got a Godwin Diaz pattern bolter. There's an entire wiki page dedicated to just the bolter, her armor, her sword, herself, and even the cloak that she wears, the frag and crack grenades that she carries. It's so in-depth that you can go to the Lexiconum and read for hours. Magic, it's like, this card is trample. Oh, by the way, every single person that you see at the store, salty. Every single one of them are pissed about every single thing. And
I wouldn't know what that feels like. I'm generally a very positive person about this hobby.
Well, no, I mean that about Magic. That's a shot at Magic.
I know. I was being very sarcastic because I'm well known for my salt.
But it was really the ambience that caught me. Just everything about this game is just so in depth, and I loved it.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. So, alright, so the lore is something that drew you in, you say, and you yourself do videos where you talk about the lore and that kind of thing.
I actually do not do those videos. I have a very good friend by the name of Viggy, the GM. He runs my Dark Heresy campaign that appears on my channel. Insert plug here. Go check it out if you like Dark Heresy. He actually shows me a script. I go over it for any inaccuracies, and then he's got a really nice voice, so he reads it. I put it into a video and I release it. But I don't really have, like, I can't do the narrations as well as he can. So he takes care of that, and yeah.
Huh, that's nothing wrong with that. So, okay, but you are still a fan of the lore.
Oh god, yes.
And you're quite well versed in it.
Yep.
Is there a period that you think is the best for the lore? Or any direction you like that it's taken? Or maybe you like what's happening now?
Alright, so, strap in and smash that keyboard, because I like 8th edition's lore the best.
Oh dear.
I'm not gonna joke. I'm not gonna try to sugarcoat it and everything. I think one of the better books of 8th edition was that came out in the 8th edition time period. I'm not talking about from M41.99. I'm talking about the 8th edition when it started to now, the books that were released since 8th edition began. One of my favorite books currently is Black Legion, and ADB is, oh my god, he's like, his writing of that book. If you haven't read it for yourself, read it. Read that. Master of Mankind I absolutely love, but the whole Gathering Storm thing, when the fanboys were sitting there, well, the fans were sitting there going, oh, well, we want something to happen. We want progression. And the writers are like, you do realize everything is going to explode, right? Like, everything's going bad for the Imperium right now. And they're just like, yeah, push it into the future. Okay. Boom. Cadia blows up. Boom. Half of the Space Marines are dead. Boom. Belisarius Cawl enacts Gilliman's final plan and makes the Primaris Marines to resurrect some of the dead chapters, create new chapters, and reinforce the older chapters. I'm personally a fan of the Primaris Marines. Granted, I do think their indoctrination was a little bit forced. I do like their story overall.
Yeah, I think it's more a case of people aren't pissed off at what's happened. I think they're more pissed off at how it's happened.
Oh yeah, it's definitely how it's happened. If they did it softly and over about a 2-year period, but at the same time they wanted to sell the Primaris Marines, so I understand it. I understand GW's business move for it, and just rushing it because, sell the models. Which, if you guys don't know, the Primaris Marines are literally flying off of the shelves for new players. Players who aren't in the competitive scene, players who just want to build and paint something so that they can bring in new players, new revenue. It's an amazing idea, amazing business move. Though I do think that Gathering Storm Book 1, 2, and 3 should have all been like novels with 300 plus pages done up between like 3 different authors and explained more in depth. The books afterwards, like Dark Imperium, explains it perfectly. Black Legion explains it pretty well, because they catch a glimpse of what's happening now. There's a lot of good books for it now. It's just that those 3 books kind of, hey guys, here you go, here's a Primarch. Wait, what? Why? How?
I think you're definitely right in that it's something that needed the novel treatment. If it had like what happened with the Horus Heresy, where you had sort of like the 3 Horus Heresy books that focus on Horus himself and the Lunar Wolves, False Gods, Galaxy in Flames, that trilogy, where that had different writers and it really fleshed out, what led Horus to turn traitor, and then obviously the other books in the series have come along, and then it wasn't until 4 years after that they brought out the Horus Heresy game for Forge World. So you have all this rich backstory, and all you got to do is build upon it, and you can go in your own directions, but all the groundwork is already there.
Yep,
someone's already constructed a great narrative, whereas with the Gathering Storm, it was like they were making it up as they went. They're like, fuck, we wrote ourselves into a corner here. Gilliman gets captured by a bunch of Chaos Space Marines. Fuck, what do we... Cypher lets him out. Okay,
Actually, I could justify that. I could justify that extremely well. They finally explained how Cypher is actually slipping in and out of where he is, how he travels, and everything. He's also gathered the war bands and everything of the Fallen, and assisted Gilliman just to get to the Emperor. He was so close to his goal, and then Gilliman's just like, alright, thank you, Cypher. I know that I promised you everything, and, you could go into the throne room, but, no.
Did he really think, though, that Gilliman would let him in that throne room?
Well, it's Cypher. I mean, yeah, absolutely not. There's no way that he thought he did.
Where the convolution really came in for me was things like the Webway Gate on the moon.
Well, in all fairness, there is a Webway Gate on Terra. There's multiple Webway Gates on Terra.
But that makes sense as a full-blown planet. But the moon just seems a bit contrived.
Yeah, that one did come a little bit out of nowhere. But, there's webways being discovered each and every day. I mean, Kion himself said in Black Legion that the person who has the knowledge of a webway gate system is worth 10 warlords. Like, it is so important to learn those because you can get around the galaxy instantaneously around pretty much any defenses.
Well, that's the whole point of what happened with the Thousand Suns and Araman. Araman, in his quest to get to the Black Library, he's always...
Oh my god, okay. Alright, I love, and I will continue. When I talked to Gav Thorpe on the Adeptus podcast about this, it was amazing. When he finally shows up to the Black Library, and he has his army, he has his men, he has everything at his disposal, Yvraine says one line that I think captures everything that Armin is going to do in the current lore forever. And she just looks at him, looks down, and goes, Armin. And then she just walks past him. Not even batting an eye at him.
It's kind of sad though. Like, he gets such great build up, and it's just like, it's always pulled away at the last minute. It's just Dick teasing Araman with the library. Probably.
Well,
like,
I mean, Armin didn't even know about the Eternity Gate or the staircase or the actual army. He didn't make it past the Harlequins. He didn't make it up to the White Seers yet.
no, and
Yeah,
nor will he, but the whole point of it is, it's his learning experience. He tries, he fails, he tries again, because he's like, one day, I'm finally going to get that book out that I really want to read. Got my library card. I'm going to get that first edition How to Become a Chaos God book. And it's all
And then
gonna be
Ethereal
good.
Stern is going to put him in his place when she comes walking out.
Araman's one of those fantastic characters, isn't he? Because it's just, he's the ends justify the means. He's incredibly evil, but he doesn't know that he's evil. That's one of those great things about 40k.
I see him as quite the opposite. He's a good guy trying to do... He's an anti-hero.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, he is trying his best to save his legion.
Well, not just the Legion. I think his whole plan is just to go back to before the heresy and save the Imperium. I think that's the bigger picture.
I wouldn't go that far, considering that 40k, the timeline is... it can't be... How to put this? It can't really be retconned.
Well, I mean, I don't think they will, but that's his end goal. To save his Legion, he has to go back to before Prospero. And if he can do that, he will prevent so much bad. He will prevent the destruction of the Webway project, prevent Primarchs falling to chaos. Like, there's a lot that,
Well, if you read the new Malkador book, it's heavily hinted that the Emperor was going to kill the Primarchs anyway.
Yeah,
at least half
that
of
book
them.
made no sense. I'm sorry.
No, that book made perfect sense.
You reckon? Because the more I thought about it, I was like, that would be worse than the Horus Heresy, because you would have not only, like, let's say they got like 90% of the galaxy taken over at this point. They're still pumping out the troops, the war gear, all that kind of thing, and then half your legions go traitor at the very end of it. That's going to cause even more destruction than the actual Horus Heresy did.
It wasn't that they were going to go traitor. So the plan was that there was going to be forced infighting. At least this is my theory. This is something that me, Michael, and Remlays usually talk about. We have a huge debate about this. It's going to be taking certain characters and pitting them up against each other. And this actually ties into a kind of a joke thing that a lot of people use to try to say that the female Marines can't exist. But anyway, I don't want to get on that because that's a. But Malkador asks the Emperor, why didn't we make some of the Primarchs female to prevent the infighting? And the Emperor laughs. Now, that scene, and he thought I was joking, I wasn't. That scene, plus the new Malkador book, shows that he wanted them to fight at all times. He wanted the rivalries. He wanted them to get honor and wanted one of them to be the war master so the rest would get jealous. He wanted them to start fighting each other so he can pull away their toys, pull away their stuff, and watch the fully fledged Marines, the fully, decked out Marines and everything, destroy what was left of the traitors. This is why in Corax's book, or is it Corax? The Raven Guard guy. I can never remember his name. Yeah, it's Corax. Okay. I always get him and Kurz confused. But in the Corax book, they explain, the Emperor goes to him and is just like, yeah, I can make the Marines better. I just choose not to. You guys aren't worth it.
Yeah, well, that's right. They're there to serve a purpose. Everything he does is to serve a purpose, although I see it more as he wants a rivalry between the Primarchs so that they spur one another on to bigger and better things, as opposed to wanting a rivalry between them so that they destroy whole star systems.
Well,
Probably
let me ask you this. After all the war was won and the aliens were defeated or pushed back or not, insert random, everybody's happy now, what would Angron do?
Oh, Angron was going to die, but he was
Yep.
flawed because of the butcher's nails, not necessarily a personality defect.
Did you know Fabius Bile has removed the nails from somebody?
But not Angron's nails. The Emperor can
Angron's
even remove
nails-
those. That's obviously in Master
The
of
Emperor,
Mankind.
the Emperor didn't want to try because it might kill him. Not to say that he can't. He just saw his son. Well, he didn't really call them sons. He actually refers to them as numbers in some books, and in others he refers to them as sons, depending on who's writing them, of course. I personally think Angron would have been like one of the first ones to die. Just, alright, good job. Boom. Got him.
You see, the impression I got was they definitely couldn't remove them from him because they replaced so much of his brain with them. Without that, it wouldn't be enough brain for him to survive, regardless of if they could safely pull it out or not.
Then why not just clone him?
Wow, it's a lot of effort to make a Primarch. The Emperor only managed to do it that one time.
Fulgrim's done it quite a lot.
Ah, well, you see. What's the
Well,
circumstances
then again-
behind it? You see, Fabius Bile, they've got the warp.
Not Fulgrim, Fabius. But then again, Bile is the perfect example of hold my beer.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, he's what I wish Belisarius' call was. Like,
He
I would
is-
have loved
well-
it if the Primaris Marine, because my take on it, as I've said on the channel before, is that Fabius should have created his enhanced Marines first. They should have been leading the assault at Cadia, for example. And then when Guilliman awakens, sees this new development, that's what spurs on the creation of the Primaris Marines, with his knowledge combined with Belisarius' calls, as opposed to Belisarius' call, for some reason, being a Mechanicum Magos who dabbles in armor and tanks and weapons and biology, like, because that's not how the Mechanicum works. You basically you get shoehorned into one job.
There is a branch of the Mechanicum that is all about innovation and discovery. I know a lot of people have this misconception that the Mechanicum doesn't do anything new, but they actually do. It's just that they don't add it to the systems. They don't make STCs for it because of the Destroyer virus that's on Mars. Essentially, the more new technology you make, the older stuff is lost. So, hey, I made a new Predator. Well, now this type of Predator is now gone. And we don't know about that. But there is a branch of the Mechanicum that does do this type of research. Also, the Inquisition is allowed to do this, and so is Rogue Traders. Belisarius' call is, well, he is a heretic. We're not going to beat around that bush. He is a heretic. Heretic. There is a difference between heretic and heretic. Heretic is tech heresy. It's pretty easy to understand. I mean, even a certain YouTube channel insert here would understand that. Sorry. I'm terrible.
No, it's okay. We don't pull our punches here.
But, it's a one-mind syndicate joke.
We've poked fun at, like, Belvo's Sold and Spiky Bits before with clickbait articles and that kind of thing, and screens full of pop-up ads.
No, Spiky Bits is just, the lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah, I know, it's kind of like, you know, picking on a person with a disability, but hey.
Yeah, but Rob brings it on himself. But anyway, I view Belisarius' call as a kind of the wacky scientist that you say, hey, Belisarius, could you do this? And he's just like, oh, but I made this. Is this useful? And he's just like, all right, fine. But, in the Horus Heresy
is, what's that? Oh, I always forget his name. Kruger, the scientist of Archer.
Yes, that's exactly who Belisarius' call is.
Yes. He's there, and, you know, he's like, oh, you never know, we need a robot clone of someone. Look, here's, you know, and then one just walks out of a wardrobe.
Well, that's why I've made a bunch of theories about Belisarius' call and what he's doing. I mean, he's clearly already used the traitor gene seed to make the Sons of the Phoenix. GW is hinting at this. They're like jokingly hinting at it. They're like, hey, look, Sons of the Phoenix has the mark of the Fulgrim's third company. Come on. You
know, sorry to interject, it makes me think back to, because that Malkador novel was written by Laurie Goulding, and he is renowned for, because his theory is he doesn't matter about, the story doesn't matter. What's more important is the twist, is his mentality. And he's said that before, and like the Blood Ravens, for example, were built up. Oh yeah, the Blood Ravens for sure. They're Thousand Sons. You know, we all know it. It's just, you know, it's all hinted at with like the names, the armor, all that kind of thing. And then he's like, no, they're not. And he went out of his way to change it so they're not. And he's done that like so many times before, and it's like, this is the same thing over again. It's like, oh no, these definitely aren't Marines that come from the traders. Oh no, wink, wink. It's like, okay, give me the wink, wink, but don't rip it out of my fucking hands later on.
This is the same thing with, I just lost my train of thought on this one.
Minotaurs? They're another one?
No, okay, alright. Did you know that most of the Space Marine chapters don't even test the blood types of their initiates before they come in?
No, never even occurred to me.
Yeah, the only ones that do are the Dark Angels and the Blood Angels. They're the only ones. Oh, and the Space Wolves because of the Wolf and Fenrica. But those three chapters, they will actually do blood tests because they're implanting organs into initiates without ever checking to see if it's compatible. Like, the only thing that actually matters in an organ transplant is the blood type. It doesn't matter the gender, the sex, or anything like that. It just matters the blood type and certain levels of certain things to make sure that the body can accept it, and recovery time. But and I bring this up because there's one short story where the Dark Angels are like walking around after a battle and everything, and the apothecaries are like hiding away from the regular Dark Angels, and the apothecary stabs his Narthesium into a trader's neck, and he goes, looks at it, Fulgrim, pulls it out, walks over to another one, Angron, okay, and keeps walking and does it again, and he's like, Lion, take this body.
Makes sense.
And they do that after every single battle. So could you imagine what would happen if they found a dead Blood Raven? Like, they just stab it into him. Mortarian? What? Did not call that.
Well, that would have a lot of people asking questions.
Well, actually, it could. My theory is that it is either... It's not Thousand Sons. This is my theory. My theory. Nothing else. My opinion on this. That's it. Because I know people are going to bitch and moan at me. I think it's the Lion. Like, the whole thing about the Dark Angels is that they're crusading Christians and things like that. But all of the names of their wings and everything are based off of Native Americans. They have an entire company of Terminators that are done up like, yeah. They take a lot of inspiration from Native American culture. So having a chapter, a descendant of them, being called a Raven of some type, is not out of the question.
No, but I'd point out to things like the Corvidae cult of the Thousand Sons and the fact that the founding member, or who was meant to be the founding member of the Blood Ravens,
oh
was
yeah,
the Thousand Sons,
no, it
like
is
the Raven emblem on his
it
shoulder.
is heavily implied that it is the Thousand Sons. Like, you'd have to be an idiot not to see that, but I can totally see them doing a twist.
Have you read the short story Last Son of Prospero?
Yes.
Yeah, that was an interesting way to wrap that up. Kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah, but again, the Black Library writers kind of don't care too much about the Blood Ravens. They're not that important. They're originally intended to just be a made-up chapter for a video game.
Well, they got written out that way because of, again, when Laurie Goulding was the editor, they decided to change direction midway through because, again, the twist is more important than the story they're telling. So all the
just look Look at the twist with Dawn of War 3. Joke's on you. We don't care about it.
No, I think the joke's on the poor consumer because Relic doesn't care about it.
Well, yeah, it did
we should take a moment to talk about that. Do you find what they do with that game to be appalling? Because I do, personally.
Alright, so when it was announced, that I saw a screenshot of it, and I made a video about this, I knew it was going to be a shit tier game. It was going to be garbage. It was the dumbest, childish freaking thing I have ever seen. It looked like a MOBA game. Like, it looked like something I would play on my cell phone. And I looked at it, I'm like, this is not 40K. This is idiotic. Like, why is... I get the orc building moving. You know, I understand it from, like, Dawn of War 2, where it would, like, shake and things like that. And I even thought that was stupid and out of place. But this damn building is moving harder than a freaking Willy Wonka movie. And I just looked at it, I'm like, oh my god, this is so bad. I'm not playing this unless... If somebody gifts this to me, I might play it. Somebody did. I looked into it for 10 minutes and uninstalled it. The Space Marines were ungodly overpowered. The game itself was clunky and bad. The AI was stupid. The cover system was bad. It was trying way too hard to be League of Legends. It was trying way too hard to make stupid things. We cannot miss the backflipping Terminator armor. There's so much wrong with that game. Like, if they just said, instead of jumping, he teleported up into the air to slam down, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. He's got a macro teleportation array aboard his Terminator armor. That is something you can do in Dark Heresy, so why not? But the fact that he just leaps up in the air, I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah, that was the most cringe thing when myself and co-host Kat, when we had the chance to look at the trailer, we just went, what the fuck?
The night, like, if they made it.
It's a platform for them to try and sell a game, and Warhammer was just a skin that they threw over it. Like, Warhammer 40,000 skin on this horrible amalgam of, like, RTS and MOBA, and it's like, you can't just smash those things together and think that you're going to get something that's going to please everyone. It's actually quite the opposite. You're going to only please, like, this small niche of people. And that's exactly what fucking happened.
That game didn't please anybody. I know that there's a lot of 40K YouTubers out there who are like, this game is awesome, and did a playthrough of it, and they were just like, yeah, this is fun. But deep down, even they know that that game was bad. Everybody knows that that game is bad. It's a huge shame, because you took one of the best written 40K stories and did that to it. How do you have gigantic robots with chainsaw hands and not make it cool?
Well, I think part of the problem comes down to the fact that you have an established game type. People expect you to... It'd be like, imagine if Games Workshop tomorrow, right, released Battlefleet Gothic. Brand new, fully fledged Battlefleet Gothic game system.
I'd be so happy.
All new miniatures. But
you
control only one ship. You can't customize the ship in any way, and it's pretty much just Dreadfleet in space. You'd be like, well, this isn't Battlefleet Gothic.
I'd still probably buy it. I'm not gonna lie, I'd still buy it, but yeah, I'd be pissed.
Yeah, exactly. It's not saying you can't enjoy it, and this is a thing I often stress to people. Like, just because I'm shitting on something doesn't mean I'm saying you can't enjoy it or find merit in it. I'm just saying, for me, my personal opinion, this is a problem. And when I look at Dawn of War 3, it's like, people loved the combat systems in Dawn of War 1, and they liked things about Dawn of War 2's system that was a bit more skirmish-based, with the points of interest, as opposed to, you know, building your own base, that kind of thing. And especially Last Stand. Like, I loved Last Stand. I've got, like, level 20 on all my characters. I've got, like, 3 levels of 20 on some of them. And it's like, fucking love Last Stand. And Dawn of War 3 was like, yeah, nah, we're just going to go completely different. It's like, no, that's not what you do. If you're going to do something different, just call it, like, I don't know, Warhammer 40,000 skirmish battles or some crap like that, you know? Maybe some funny name like Regicide or Infanticide or Tyrannicide, you know? Some silly like, tagline. But by calling it Dawn of War, immediately you set an expectation upon it. Where people go, oh, it's Dawn of War. Well, I expect it to be like this existing product that's called Dawn of War. You're setting yourself up to have publicity nightmares because of that. If it was just a game that they released set in the 40k universe, people wouldn't give anywhere near as many fucks as they did, but for the fact it was called Dawn of War.
You know what would have been a better business move instead of making Dawn of War 3? Taking Captain Titus and sticking him into Mortal Kombat. I know that sounds stupid. I know that sounds stupid. But just having him as a DLC just beating the shit out of things would be way better than what they had.
But when he gets his heart ripped out in a fatality, which heart gets ripped out?
All right, look, you see, we just kind of skipped that part.
Well, you got to punch through the black carapace first as well. But what happens if he gets killed by the Xenomorph? Do you get a Xenomorph Space Marine?
Oh my god, don't even go into that kind of stuff. You're gonna... Yeah. No, but I could see that kind of working over Dawn of War 3, which was just bad.
Yeah. No, it's a real shame what they did with that franchise, because just wasted a franchise, basically. It's a franchise killer, that kind of game. Like, if they want to salvage it, they've pretty much got to bring out a Dawn of War 4 that gives you Dawn of War 1 gameplay with Dawn of War 2's Last Stand tacked on there.
No,
that's pretty much
it's gotta be.
To save it.
It's just gotta be Ultimate Apocalypse. That's it. Release an official version of Ultimate Apocalypse. All new voice acting, all new graphics, make it look a little bit better. Boom. Save the entire series.
You know what what they need to do? They need to go the old Supreme Commander. Make a Supreme Commander version of Ultimate Apocalypse.
And I mean, well, yeah. But I do think that we need to take a step back and realize that there wasn't any really like AAA Warhammer game that did incredibly well. And everybody tries to point to, oh, well, what about Space Marine? That game was just a Gears of War ripoff. Let's not try to beat around that.
It's not even in any way, shape, or form related to canon.
Actually, it is.
Really?
Yeah. So? In one of the books, Kento Sicarius is walking through a hall of fallen heroes, and he's like, "These are the great captains that came before me." Yada yada yada. Titus, and he goes through it, and then goes, "And then I've been named captain."
But
Titus is
doesn't
actually
the
canon.
game take place after? Like, it takes place in the same time frame that Kento Sicarius is in charge of the second company. Like that's why they've had to say it's outside of canon. Like there could be an Easter egg where they say Titus was a captain before him, but
they've never said that the game isn't canon. They've actually done quite the opposite. They said everything is canon, not everything is true. When Titus was removed from being a captain, they could have smudged the record so that Titus didn't exist. I.e., let's take him out because he might have been a heretic so we don't stain our honor and just say Kento Sicarius was here the whole time.
It's interesting that you say that everything is canon, not everything is true. Because like, I'm pretty sure when there's a Marine on the ground doing the fighting, that would be true. So they can't say that that never happened unless it's like some sort of fantasy that you're having within your own head.
I go back to Black Legion for this. When Kion is talking to an Inquisitor, they're like, "Yeah, I've been awarded as a war hero and a scholar of these worlds that I've never been to." And they do get reports wrong. And this is the same 40k universe that can somehow lose an entire Imperial Guard regiment.
Oh, yeah, but they grow on trees. Doesn't matter if you use those. That's something I love about the Damocles fluff. One of the funniest aspects of that is that after the Tau sort of have their great expansion and take over all those Imperial worlds, they're like, oh, the Imperium hasn't responded, we must be in the green. And it's like the Imperium is just so slow and inept that it takes forever to muster a response. It's just the most fantastic fucking example of how grimdark government works. It's just the bureaucracy is so pathetic that they're like, oh yeah, so 140 years ago we lost this set of planets to some aliens. Oh, geez, we better get right on that.
Yeah. There's a lot of leeway with 40K. You gotta give it its sci fantasy type thing going down. But the Damocles Golf event proved that the Tau were actually capable of fighting full-fledged chapters instead of just occasionally killing the Imperial Fist, because let's face it, everybody can beat the Imperial Fist. I'm pretty sure an orc can sneeze on one and kill an entire chapter. But
that pretty much happened too.
Yeah, it did. When the beasts went to Terra. And yes, there were 6 of them, not just one.
It's all about
There
the
were
prime
6.
orcs.
Yep. There's an in-joke right there that I want to know if some people get.
Oh, I think everyone understands the prime orc. What a prime orc is.
Well, no, everybody understands that. There was just a... I'll tell you after. Because somebody's going to get mad at me for that.
Oh, probably. But someone gets mad at everything. It's the fucking internet. It's the wild, wild west.
Yeah. And I get my fair share of heat every now and then.
Yes, that's something that's great about YouTubing, isn't it? You can't get cut up about it because you know that, like, if you're willing to step out and put your works out in this public domain, you're going to cop some heat back because there's a lot of people who aren't going to agree with what you have to say.
Oh, without a doubt. That is so true.
The only time it gets frustrating is when you know you're right. And I know that sounds like a very egotistical statement to make, but there are some things you just know you're right on.
Ah, really? Egotistical. Gee, it's almost like it's in my name.
True enough. But, you know, these... You get these moments where and then someone turns around and they're like, nah, man. Like, I did one where I was talking about how the Mechanicum struggles to innovate. It's not just that they don't invent new things. They can, but it takes a really long time. It's really difficult. A lot of the
it takes them like a century.
And people are like, oh, no, man, what? We invent things all the time today. It's like, yeah, but it's part of what 40K's law is. It's not about... In 40K, you can't just go out there, grab a screwdriver, some wires, and make something. That's not how it works. When they're talking about inventing things, they're talking about inventing important things.
Well, I mean, no common person can just walk out and invent something.
No, they'll get killed for tech heresy.
Well, no, I mean just in real life. You don't just immediately invent something. It's not like everybody has the ability. It takes an innovator to do that.
Well, that's right. But, you know, you do a video like that and you get people going, oh, no, man, they can just invent things all the time. It's like, oh, really? They just invent new types of plasma weaponry. It's just that easy, huh? Okay. Righto.
I mean, the most recent set of armor, aside from Mark 11, was the Sororitas power armor. The other armor is, like, thousands of years old because it's efficient.
Well, the Mark 7 was around at the end of the heresy, and that's the main bread and butter of the Astartes, even to the time of 40K. So it's not.
Yeah.
And that was something that wasn't an STC. That was something that was invented on Terra and modified, and there was help from the Mars and different patterns they came up with over the Great Crusade. But you know, and that was when the Imperium was at its height. Like people forget that in 40K, like all the knowledge gained over the Great Crusade was corrupted by chaos.
And all of that knowledge was sealed up, never talked about. If you talked about it, you were killed. The Inquisition was made to hunt you down if you knew about it. There's one book that I really like for this. Assassinorium, or something like that. It has the assassins in it, and this one assassin is standing there with the fake Primarchs because they're on a parade, and she's got to kill this one guy, and she's disguised as one of the Primarchs because she can change her shape and everything. Because the assassins in 40K are absolutely ridiculous. But I digress. And this guy's like, there were 18 sons of the Primarch. And she goes, "That's preposterous." And this is an assassin, by the way. There were only 7.
Ah, yes.
And I'm just like, yo, wait, what? Or 8. 8.
Probably
Sorry,
9.
my bad.
Probably 9. 9 loyalists,
Yeah.
9 traitor.
Well, I think she actually says a lower number. Like, it's really strange.
Well, there are a few legions that have sort of fallen out of favour, like the Space Wolves. They're definitely not in the good books. Neither are the Dark Angels.
Well, the Dark Angels are currently being hunted by an Inquisitor Sabathiel.
Yeah, still,
And-
the Dark Angels... You don't fuck with the legions. Inquisitors have the most power in the Imperium, but you can't go after a first founding chapter.
Yeah, especially one that has Legion protocols like the Imperial Fist, the Dark Angels.
That's it.
Yeah.
One phone call to their mates, and all of a sudden you have a whole legion to deal with.
And it's the same thing why you don't mess with the Sororitas. It's like, and I get a lot of heat for this, but Sororitas outnumber Space Marines like 10 to 1. Because
Well, it depends if
an
you're
order...
wearing the Sororitas or not.
But the Sororitas themselves, their orders number in the tens of thousands. Okay, so that's 10 Space Marine chapters right there. We do know that there is 1,000 canon chapters. We also know that every chapter has 1,000 members, meaning there's 1,000,000 Space Marines. There is nigh 5 times that amount of Sororitas. They're armed with bolters, so they can blow through that power armor. And it's just like, after the whole thing, after the whole Van Dyer thing, it's just like, oh, well, let's just take away the Sororitas. You just have all of these girls just looking at you like, you what? Come on, let's see how this plays out for you. Well, we can get the legions to attack you. Okay, good luck with that.
Look, the Space Marines would win that fight, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't be the most costly fight for no reason. And that's what it comes down to.
It's still debated if they would win it, because you have living saints and everything.
The only reason they would win it is because at the end of the end of Great Crusade, just before the Horus Heresy, they did fight the Technocracy, which had power-armoured humans with bolt guns and that kind of thing, and the legions did beat the shit out of them 10 ways to Sunday.
Sororitas' power armor is superior to almost all forms of power armor, aside from the Astartes, which has a better life support system and can integrate with the Black Carapace, meaning it can operate on thought and not nervous system.
And not only that, you've got the Astartes have the superior speed, superior reflexes, they've got better accuracy with their weapons, plus the Astartes
that
using...
isn't true. They don't have better accuracy with their weapons. Their weapons are both shot using their power armor to automatically aim, sense targets, track moving targets, track thermal targets, and the like. They're...
Well, I'm referring more to the physical abilities of the user, so a Marine can more quickly, because of his higher speed and reflexes,
yes, he will be able to get his weapon and kill the sister faster.
And
it's
also
just that
they would, I mean, in theory, the Astartes would be smart enough to play to their strengths, engage them in void combat, things like that, as opposed to, attacking them in entrenched fortified positions on planets, and attacking fortress monasteries head on. Like, that would just be stupid, but crazier things have happened in 40k, right?
Yeah, I mean, Angron's Legion existed.
Yeah, hey, they got the job done.
The one thing is, Sororitas have the power of faith. Their faith is literally their shield, both metaphorically and quite literally. They're just... And I feel like the Sororitas really capture the truest aspect of 40k. Nuns with guns, melted maidens, bolter bitches, whatever you want to call them. I love them. And hashtag free the boob plate. Yo, don't take away my boob plate.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with it. It's deliberately stylized. I mean, because I recently spoke about it, how it's sort of a lose-lose if you modify the armor, because you're going to piss off the long-time fans of it just to appease this very vocal minority who are like, oh no, the boobs are stupid. But it's like, no, that's part of their character, and it's playing up the fact that it's no men under arms.
if you hit the boobs in the certain spot, the bullet will actually go straight into their heart and kill them. Okay, if a bullet is going to go through the power armor regardless, it's going to kill the person underneath it.
Yeah, well, it's going to be very bad for the occupant. Like,
also, a lot of people don't realize...
If a bolt shell hits one of these sisters in the abdomen, it's still game over.
Well, that's the same with a Space Marine. They are crippled from a bolter shot. They do go into their stasis, they do go into their cocoons and try to wait it out, allowing their bodies to do what their bodies do, which is secrete basically a sticky sap that covers them up, puts them into a life-supporting state, and puts them into a little bit of a stasis so that they can survive. Sisters don't have that. They get shot, their fucking leg explodes. They look at it and they're just like, whatever, keep going.
Yeah, they haven't got a choice on the matter. Well, at the end of Scars, one of the Space Marines cops, a dozen bolter shells to the side of his body. They start punching through his armor, and then they just fuck him up. And there's a debate whether or not to put him into a dreadnought.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it takes.
Also, just letting you guys...
It's a grenade going off inside your body, so...
It's an RPG going off inside your body. And that's all dependent
they're only
upon...
small. They're only small. They're not an RPG, that kind of size. They're more like an XM25 shell, because that's about the same diameter
Depending on what bolt shell is actually shot at you. If it's a Dragonfire round, you're gone.
It's a heavy bolter shell, you're really fucked.
Yeah. Depending on what hits you, if it's a regular bolt shell, you have a chance of surviving. If it's any of the special issue ammunition, like the Seeker ammunition that Azrael likes to use, you're gone.
I love what the Dark Angels. I want to see what they do with them in the Heresy. Like the crazy sort of technology they've got hidden that no one else has access to. Like, give me some of that. Nom 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 nom.
The stealth technology that they use.
Yeah, well,
plasma tech that they use.
Apparently, the Primarch has a bodyguard of, like the Glaive tank.
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently, Lionel Johnson has one of those that fires black holes. It's not described as a vortex weapon, it's described as firing actual black holes at people.
Well, because it's 40k, why not?
Well, it's 30k. It's like, this is Dark Age of the technology.
Yeah, this is pre-codex and everything, before these weapons were actually banned and everything. Which a lot of people, they tend to forget because they're like, oh, the Black Templar don't follow the codex. And I'm just like, actually, they kind of do. You don't see them running around with nuke grenades and Volkite weapons.
Yeah, when was the last time you saw a jet bike squadron?
It's like, yeah, I get it. You're right. They don't follow the numbers. You're correct. 1000% correct. They do not report their numbers. They are a crusading fleet. They can constantly make a new chapter each and every planet that they land on. Their numbers could be in the tens of thousands. That's perfectly cool, but you don't see them using forbidden technology. You don't see them cracking planet surfaces. You don't see them using vortex weaponry. You don't see them running around with vortex grenades. It's like they do follow the rules. It's just they don't really follow the rules, kind of like the Space Wolves.
So here's a question for you.
Shoot.
Do you think that it's right for the Primaris to make their way into the Blood Angels, Dark Angels, and Space Wolves?
Absolutely.
Do you
the
think
Blood Angels
within the law they would be accepting of those who aren't flawed, or within their own, especially with the Dark Angels, not in on the Secret of the Fallen?
Alright, so let's start with the Blood Angels, for instance. The Blood Angels' mutations have gotten out of control. They cannot sustain their numbers anymore. Recruits are mutating at an extraordinary rate. Their numbers have just been completely decimated by the Tyranids. And I think it was reported that 11 chapter masters died. This was before the book was actually released. Now that they have a different number, no named characters really died, but 11 huge, multitudes of huge characters have died. Maybe even entire chapters have died. They do need the reinforcements. It's kind of like, hey, I know you don't like this, but it's kind of what's going to keep you alive right now. they need it. The Dark Angels, on the other hand, they also need it. The war with Magnus, the war with the Space Wolves, and the fall of Cadia have decimated their numbers. Also, the war with the Inquisition and the Iron Warriors, prior to those big events, have decimated their numbers. They don't have a choice in the matter of needing the recruits. They desperately need them.
So you don't think that their pride and going quietly into the night would be something that comes to mind? Because I know, like, with the Raven Guard in the Heresy, after Korax escaped from Istvan, he didn't call back any of the cast-out Raven Guard. So, because
that's because he's an idiot.
Is it, though? They fought more like the War Master's troops, not his own. Because for those who don't know, the Raven Guard in the Horus Heresy, when they first met, in the Great Crusade, when they first met their Primarch Korax, they'd been working with the Lunar Wolves / Sons of Horus for a very long time beforehand, and they were basically absolutely bloodthirsty, remorseless, very savage, barbarian type killers, and that completely did not gel with Korax's vision. So Korax basically just rounded up the most bloodthirsty, cold-hearted of them, put them on a couple of battle barges, and then said, just fuck off into the void. I don't want you in my legion, I don't care what you do, but just go away. And he sent like all the senior hierarchy out of the Legion away, and then molded the new Raven Guard in his image. And then furthermore...
Yeah, that's not going to come back to bite him in the ass.
Oh, it came back as the Carcharodons. Wink, wink. That's another one of those tie-in chapters that...
Yeah.
But they have like the same armor. They wear the armor of the period. They have all the Raven Guard style tribal tattoos and... Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Not confirmed, but confirmed, if you know what I mean. But
yeah, I can understand that.
But yeah, he didn't even call those forces back after he was reduced to only a few thousand troops. And
yeah, pride is kind of a bitch, isn't it?
Yeah, and you look at how like everyone deals with things differently. Like the pride of the Iron Hands after the fall of Ferrus, or the Salamander's defiance. Like everyone dealt differently with their individual problems. And especially the Dark Angels just strike me as the type that would just turn their back on Primaris. And just be like,
at first they did. No. They did have a little bit of a schism with them. But when a Primarch tells you to do something, you kinda do it.
I don't know that I like that. I think the Dark Angels are just too defiant. But
I mean, the Dark Angels have attacked the Inquisition.
So, the Space Wolves, and again, the Space Wolves want to talk about people who have pride.
Space Wolves are basically dead.
You call yourself Ego Queen, look at the Space Wolves.
Ironically, my name doesn't come from, like, anything egotistical, because, well, it comes from, that's a long-winded joke about my name.
More than welcome to tell us.
Well, let's finish what we're talking about here, and then I'll go into it.
Well, okay, I'll sidetrack us then from will the Primaris be accepted to which Primarch would you like to see return for the Imperium, and why?
The 3 returning Primarchs are going to be as followed. One is Lionel Johnson. The other is more than likely Yagatai Khan.
Nothing wrong with that.
And my reasoning for this is Lionel Johnson is still alive, and so is Yagatai Khan. Yagatai is currently under Komora in a stasis / God, what is he under? He's under Komora's main city, just so everybody throughout time can see him. So I can see him returning once he breaks out. Lionel Johnson, it's basically just his Prince Charming needs to kiss him so he can wake up.
Well, I like to think that just the Khan just has a bitching harem going on. He's just settled into the Dark Eldar life and he's just living it good. He's gone full Genghis, you know. He's there with like the big pavilion and all the like gold and treasure and the hoarded conquests and a big harem, living it
The
up.
one thing, and yes, I could totally see that, by the way. But the one thing that I really want him to come back on is his version of Moondraken. But the whole front end of it is just a Dark Eldar bike. So it's like half Imperial and half Dark Eldar.
That would be pretty crazy. Maybe he picks up a weapon or two in his time there as well. But I don't know, the two that I picked that I wanted to come back would be Korax or the Khan. Korax entirely because I think it would be a great antithesis of Gilliman. Korax
He
is
wants
a
to go back
Primarch
to the
who,
box.
well, he doesn't like the overt actions in life. He likes to be more subdued and view the big picture and sort of like move the chess pieces, whereas Gilliman gets right in there and gets involved in every little detail. Korax is like, yeah, let's just, blow up a building over here, maybe destroy a bridge over there, and we'll see what happens. But Korax had that big experiment with creating his own Marines in the Heresy, which turned to shit. And I think it would be great of him to
Well,
come
it
back.
kind of turned into the Black Dragons.
Yeah, well, some kind of did. But for him, he has learnt from that it's not good to mess with these things. And even if that's true or not, that would be his take on it, because that's exactly what happened. He said, no, let's close down the project. This was all a wasted endeavour. If he came back, it would be great of him as someone who would be like anti-Primaris. And unlike Gilliman, here is another Primarch. You can't just tell him what to do, because people are going to side with him. You can't just go to civil war, especially with all these threats at your borders. So you can have someone who's like, no, the Primaris aren't a good idea, this is going to go badly for us, and Gilliman's like, no, they're great, trust me, bro, trust me, I came up with it one night drinking, it's going to fucking work. And Korax is like, yeah, you're a fucking idiot, what if they go to chaos?
Well, I mean,
all sorts of
out of the
things.
Primarchs, Gilliman was pretty much the smartest.
No, he's not the smartest. He is very good at what he does, though.
He created a separate empire that rivaled the Imperium.
But he also had the resources to do it.
And now he has the
How
resources.
many other Primarchs in the time of the Great Crusade had planets that already had interplanetary vessels on them? How many other Primarchs were born with planets that had a decent level of technology? Like some Primarchs, like Leman Russ, land on a planet where it's literally Viking times and they have boats. Like Magnus and Perturabo are probably both smarter than Gilliman, but as to what they're able to do with those assets, like Magnus is not interested in creating empires. Magnus is more interested in the accumulation of knowledge. Perturabo is more
Magnus can
interested
go fuck himself, is what Magnus could do.
He's the coolest. He's the
No,
coolest.
he isn't.
Yeah, he is.
Fucking nerd. Fucking hate Magnus.
I've been collecting Thousand Suns for over 20 years. He's so...
I'm sorry you wasted your time.
Oh, that's alright. That's alright. You're allowed to think that. Nobody's perfect.
Obvious joke is obvious.
It is. It is. But no, it's... You got someone who wants to create and amass knowledge. Like, every Primarch was designed for a different reason.
Hey, you got a nerd that wanted to open up warp rifts and summon demons.
That's not what he
that
wanted
was
to
Magnus.
do. That's not
He
what
was
he wanted to
literally
do.
talking to demons.
Magnus wasn't doing that out of any deliberate reasons back in the Heresy, especially not if you read the novels. It was all about accumulating knowledge, and he's looking into the warp was because he's like, well, we're psychic, humans becoming more psychic, we're going to need to know about this because it's going to become a big problem in the future. And the Emperor was just like, nah, don't worry about it, I've got a plan. And he's like, what's that plan? Oh, not telling. So...
Nah, I don't trust you.
He doesn't trust anyone. Didn't tell anyone.
Yeah, that was one of his biggest flaws. If he actually sat down as Primarchs and explained what chaos was, they probably would have never fought each other.
Or it might have had a different outcome. But it's interesting to note, the Emperor's big problem was he just couldn't relate. He couldn't relate to people's emotions.
Well, yeah, he's literally a god. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, no, he's not. But he's made to be a god. He's made to be far superior to any human.
Well, God Emperor is just a formal term at this point. It's just an example
Well, I mean,
of what he already
even
was.
Gilliman had to question if he was actually a god. It's like, he wasn't a god. Wait, was he? Holy shit! It's just the whole time he was a god. Damn it! My stupid brother was right. I owe him $5. What if he's still alive?
It's the duality of chaos. Like when Horus gets a vision of like him being forgotten and cast aside and reviled by the Imperium, and the Emperor being revered as a god, he doesn't realize it's his own actions that create that. But it's the reason why he goes to one of the reasons why he goes to war. When he starts the Horus Heresy, he's like, "Oh fuck that guy." It's like, no, your very actions led to it. It's like the ultimate in chaos. Fuck you, dickery. Which is pretty good. I like that. That was creative.
I mean, poor Fulgrim actually could have, stopped all of that if he just listened to Eldred.
And the Emperor could have stopped it. But Fulgrim. You want to talk about dumb Primarchs and idiot Primarchs?
Oh, okay. Oh, whoa! You do not mess with my waifu Fulgrim. He did nothing wrong.
Oh, I'm sorry. My sword is talking to me. This is going to go well. Maybe I'll put the sword down. No, it's telling me not to. Alright, I'm going to trust you, sword. You better not lead me astray.
In all fairness, that sword housed one of the most powerful demons of Slaaneish's, collection.
Excuses are like assholes. Everyone's got them.
And Fulgrim was
Fulgrim's probably got 3 or 4 of them. And they're all probably getting a good workout. So, good for him.
Mess with my buddy Fulgrim. He was a great guy. He did nothing wrong, and his books are the best written out of all the Primarchs.
Oh, I don't know. Fulgrim's a pretty bad novel.
Whoa! Okay, Fulgrim is my favorite novel.
Oh, jeez. Even though I play Thousand Suns, I'm actually working on White Scars at the moment, and I would say that either Path to Heaven or Scars are my favorite.
The freaking White Scars books, they're just way too boring for me. I mean, it's almost as boring as the Dark Angel book, Descent of Angels.
Oh yeah, you want to talk about bad? That one we can agree on.
That one was bad, but it was a great story for understanding the Dark Angels.
Well, all 3 Dark Angels stories are they get better as they go.
Well, that's the thing about the Dark Angels is that everybody you tell from a certain perspective, but the Dark Angels, they're not told from their point of view.
No.
They're kind of the anti-hero in their own stories.
I got this story in my own head about the Dark Angels, that the reason they are the way they are was back on Terra because they were the first Legion. They had to fight alongside the Thunder Warriors and other armies of the Emperor and had to kill them off. And they were probably pretty close to them at the time. They were probably close to some of the Thunder Warriors. Probably, that whole friendship forged in battle. And then the Emperor forces them to kill off their best mates. And that probably was part of the reason why they became so insular and disconnected from others, is because of that pain. That's fanfic in my own head, but...
Also, did you ever notice that the Primarchs were made after the Space Marines?
Well, they came up with the gene seed first.
Or they didn't even have it because they didn't think about it at first.
It's one of those funny things, though, how Gilliman's in 2 places at once during the Gathering Storm books.
Yep.
It's just continuity errors. They're a wonderful thing.
They are really funny.
So, Games Workshop's pretty bad for forgetting their own fluff when they create continuity errors. One of my favourites of stupid things, I guess it's not continuity error, but just a stupid thing, is with Magnus the Red's demon model. How, the sculptor's talking about and how happy he is with it, and he's got that one stupid big giant wanking arm. And it's full of bionics. But they don't even look like bionics, they're just conduit tubes sticking out of his arm. He's like, yeah, Magnus had his arm broken by Le Man Russ. So, Magnus had to fix it with bionics. It's like, hang on a minute. A Primarch, who not only has Primarch healing, but has access to biomancy and can literally heal himself with magic, fixes his arms with bits of conduit. And also, he's a demon.
In all fairness, demons are still bound by physical traits.
Yeah, but do you see a greater demon break their leg and then forever on they've got to walk around with a walking stick and a splint? Maybe, oh, that's that bloodthirster over there who, he broke his leg that time when he stepped in a rabbit hole, so now he's got to walk on crutches for 6 weeks. Doctor said he'll get better. It doesn't happen because they're demons. The only demon who, there's two demons I can think of that were eternally damaged and changed. One was Scarbrand, and the reason he stays changed is because he's an aspect of Khorne, and Khorne wills him to be that way. And the other one is the Fate Weaver, and that's because he was thrown into the whirlpool.
And Dracnian. Don't forget Dracnian.
Yeah, but he lives as a sword these days.
Yeah, he's also got his ass stomped by the Emperor. Can't forget that one. Although he did almost kill the Emperor.
I don't like that story either. I'm not a fan.
I love that story.
You know why I don't like Master of Mankind? Because it tells pointless stories. Here's a story about a night household. Here's a story about random Sister of Silence out in the webway. And here's a story about this person and this person. And they all go nowhere. They're all just filler for the story.
I actually like that.
That would work good in an anthology. If you had an anthology that was called like War in the Webway, I'd be perfectly fine with it. Oh, okay, what's this night household doing in the webway? What's this Titan doing in the webway? That would be great. But because this is trying to tell a narrative called Master of Mankind, none of that has anything to do with the fucking Master of Mankind.
I thought it did, because it's just him viewing it.
You reckon that?
And that's just how the Emperor... Like, that's how the Emperor thinks. He thinks far beyond that of a normal human, so he probably thinks and watches the actions of others.
If it was him viewing it, I think it'd be a lot more cold and calculating than that. Sister of Silence number 218 moves into combat with Demon Horde at Section Alpha, Beta, Gammon. Sister 218 has just been killed. Moving on to Sister 219. And to be viewing it all at once. Like, I don't know. It's hard.
Actually, he kind of does care about the custodians and the sisters.
Yeah, just not his legions. Which is kind of...
Well, yeah, they were tools.
But mind you, like, after the Crusade, Gilliman's idea that the Marines would be the rulers of the different planets, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, too bad the Emperor was all like, yeah, no, that shit ain't happening.
Well, each Primarch was designed with a goal in mind. So, like, Conrad Kurz would be, in theory, creating the Emperor's laws. The Divine...
Fulgrim was to bring art and culture.
You've got the Khan, who is always questing for enemies. Russ, who's the Emperor's executioner. Magnus, who runs the webway. You have Lorgar, who...
well, Magnus would be on the Golden Throne.
That's right, that's how he runs it. He sits there on the throne. Lorgar, who pumps everyone up and gets them, how good's the Imperium? Yeah, the Imperium's the best. And, indoctrinates them, as it were. Gilliman, who's your logistics side of things. You got people like Ferrus Manus, who are creating the new technology for the Imperium. Like, all these Primarchs would have had a place, at least for some time.
Except Angron.
Well, again, we don't know what he was meant to be. Because, although...
Blood crazy maniac.
Well, prior to...
Yeah, we don't know what he would have been like without the nails.
Yeah, well, the World Eaters themselves were more restrained than the Space Wolves. They are originally the Warhounds. They could be vicious if they wanted to be, but overall they were pretty restrained, comparatively, and sort of used good tactics and things were well thought out, so we're not quite sure what they were meant to be.
That is true. Well, they still, even as the World Eaters, they still did use advanced tactics and everything.
Until the nails fully take hold, and then they just jump out of their tank and run at people. But whatever. These things happen.
Yeah.
And then you got like the Lion is just... And this is the thing that the Dark Angels is like the most closest to the Imperial template. The one that they haven't specialized him in any one area. He's just an even blending of everything.
Actually, I view the Lion as the kind of the police force, the secret police force, the ones that go and deal with a problem and then no one ever hears about it.
So I always thought of Korax more as that way.
Korax was well, he wasn't espionage. He was stealth. One would be like the CIA. The other would be like the
But then you got the Alpha Legion.
That's just espionage.
So.
The Alpha Legion is just stupid and filled with memes anyway. No one really likes it.
Yeah, maybe. You got Vulcan, who's compassionate. Compassion.
Give me a hug, brother.
Horus is a lot like Lionel Johnson in a lot of ways. They're those same sort of Primarchs. No.
I should say it's more like Gilliman. Charismatic, leadership, and very, very, very tactical.
Which again is also the same can be said of the Lion.
That is true.
I mean, Gilliman makes a point of saying he's the only brother, not even Horus, that Gilliman looked up to, was the Lion. So that's something that worries me with the rules. I don't know if you follow the rules very much for 30k, but Gilliman in the rules is very... he's got a lot of combat buffs for a not very combat Primarch, we'll say. He's one of the better fighters, which seems strange to me, because it's sort of like... He has aspects that I would give more to Lionel Johnson.
Yeah, but look at my Legion. I have, like, the best Primarch ever. It's Mortarion. Oh, the worst.
Mortarion is fucking terrifying in the Heresy.
Yeah, except when you just roll up with a Plasma Squad and erase him.
Well, that can happen with a lot of Primarchs, though. The difference in Mortarion...
No, but he literally leaves a unit to do his teleport jump.
Well, that's just bad call on his behalf. But used
It's
wisely,
like...
Mortarion is scary strong.
Yeah, he can be.
But they all can be. They all have incredible weaknesses, though. Until you sort of get to Book 7, then you got Lehman Russ and Magnus, who are both terrifying, so...
Yeah, Magnus is kind of broken in 30k from what I hear. But I also hear that the Custodians are the most broken in that game.
Well, okay, you did a video talking about Custodians in 40k.
Yeah, they're fucking garbage.
Yeah, in 30k, Custodians... How do I put this? So you're very familiar with 7th edition rules. So you've got, like, say, a Space Marine Centurion's like your second tier HQ.
No, I know about 30k as well. I play 30k, I just don't play it often.
Yeah, so you've got, like, your second tier HQ, right? And then you've got a Custodian who has all of the abilities of that guy, plus some, and comes in at a lower points cost. That's going to give you balance issues no matter what you do.
Yeah.
They
sitting here painting while we do this.
That's alright, I'm building White Scars, so I totally get you. So you've got things with the Custodians where there's a lot of instant kill weapons, instant death weapons, and a lot of units that strike first, and everyone's got 2+ armor saves in a game that's mostly built around killing 3+ armor saves. That's where the problems come from. And Forge World has not been very good at FAQing the game or keeping it up to date regarding like changes in power and balance and that kind of thing.
Not yet, anyway. They're focusing on 8th edition right now. Although they did just do all of those announcements for 30k. So that was cool.
It was. I'll be interested to see what happens with the Blood Angels and the White Scars in the next book. I always love those black books though, like one of those rocks up, you know, get a bottle of lube out and just go to town.
Oh jeez.
They're beautiful books. Like I compare those black books to what we get out of Games Workshop for 40k and nothing compares. Nothing compares. Just these.
I still have to finish my collection on the Forge World books. There we go. I can think. I promise.
I got all the Forge World books on my iPad.
Yeah, but that's not the same as carrying them.
No, it isn't. I do agree, but I've only got limited space on my bookshelves because I've got a lot of books about other things. like all my passions, things about
What?
weapons and ships and tanks and all that kind of stuff. So, because I used to do a lot of stuff with weapons and tanks and that for a living, and so it's something I'm still very passionate about. Still wouldn't mind doing more tanks for museums, but don't do many these days.
Fair enough.
But yeah, those books take up a lot of space on your bookshelf, trust me.
Yeah, and I have 3 bookshelves filled with the 40k stuff.
Well, you're doing better than me.
Plus the insane amount of armies that I have.
Well, now that I can talk about. What armies do you currently have that are your sort of favourites, and what side of points? Just so people know, like, how passionate you are.
Let's start. For Sons of Garrow, my custom Space Marine chapter, my Dusk Raiders, I have around 23,000 points. I have an entire chapter sitting on a table in my living room. A 6x3 table just filled with Marines. For Sisters of Battle, I have close to 5,000 points. They're the army that I'm favoring right now. Custodians, I have roughly 2,000 points, depending on when my fucking jet bikes get in. I only ordered like 2 boxes. I'm still going to be using my Chapter Master Betty White from last edition. Tyranids, I have close to 15,000 points. If anybody wants to see pictures of these, I can show them. I had a bunch of orcs, but I didn't play them this edition, so I didn't really like them. And I got rid of them. I had Tau. What other armies do I have? I have 3 Space Marine armies. Like I said, the Dusk Raiders, the Sons of Garrow, that's 1 army. Then I have the Order of Purification, which is a Space Marine army based around the Little Sisters of Purification, but as a Raven Guard successor, so they just wear like the Fer-de-Lay and everything like that, but they're still men. They're all my Primaris Marines because, you know, the Primaris Marines are dead chapters brought back. Then I have Grey Knights. Oh man, it's easier to just say what I don't have. Alright, I don't have Tau, I don't have Eldar, and I don't have Necrons. And I don't have Orcs anymore. Everything else is on my shelves. That's somewhere in my house.
So, pretty much no Xeno. Apart from Tyranids.
Yeah, I got Tyranids and Genestealer Cult because I really like them.
They are pretty
But yeah,
cool.
Yeah, I don't really do the Xenos.
I used to. I downsized massively over the last couple of years, just getting rid of all my different factions and different armies, even my demon armies, until the point where I'm now pretty much
one main
Slaanesh
demons as well.
I never would have picked it. As someone who likes Fulgrim, I never would have picked it.
Wait, what?
That's
Having
that obvious joke.
Oh, sorry. I spaced out. I am. My bad. But
no.
yeah, I love my little demon army. It's a slow grow army, so it's taking its sweet ass time. Right now, I'm focusing more on my Sisters of Battle, trying to get them fully upped in points.
It can be
all the
hard
units
with all the power armor. Like, I've got well over 8,000 points of 1,000 Suns for 30k painted up.
So you have 8,000 Suns.
Wow. It's not that many. It's not that many models. Probably 100 something infantry. A Mastodon. Mastodon takes up a fair few points. That thing is so overpriced in points.
All the super heavies in 40k are massively overpriced.
Oh no, this thing's way worse than other super heavies for points. Probably
My
about
Warhammer's
300.
2,000.
It's the Mastodon, for what it does, is probably about 300 points more than it needs to be viable. Which says something.
Yeah, it does. But the Mastodon is cool looking, at least.
Well, that's why I've got it. It's something that fits in the display, in my display cabinets. Whereas
I'm also getting once I do my tax return, I'm going to get another Warhound Titan. I only have one right now. He needs a buddy.
Oh, I've been collecting all the Primarchs for 30k. The only Primarch I've been working on for 40k for myself is Magnus.
I fucking hate Magnus.
Yeah,
Why,
I ripped his whole right arm off, cast up a new one, and replaced it. So now he's not got that stupid Quagmire wanking arm. I fucking hate that sculpt. The other one I've been working on, though, is Mortarion.
I got Garrow. Garrow's good enough for me.
I converted up a Garrow into Death Guard Legion colours. Got him out of the Mark 6 and put him into Mark 3. That was pretty fun.
That actually sounds really interesting.
Now, I'll send you some pictures after the show, maybe.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think...
But I love Nathaniel Garrow's stories.
All those Knights Errant stories are interesting. It's just a shame they haven't done much with them in the game yet.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about that one. Although I did like I think it's the most recent one where they go to Caliban to check and Cypher actually sends them away. Like, helps them escape.
You know, that audiobook I first heard like 3 years ago.
It's a really good audiobook.
And I almost completely forgot about it. That I'd heard
Yeah,
that
but it's
audiobook.
like super important.
It is. Well, because Dark Angels basically have no idea what's going on. And
Yep.
if anything, it's actually probably the catalyst that starts the problems.
I just love it.
Ah.
I love that they ask Cypher, like, what's going on here, and he's just like, I don't know. But I know I need to witness it.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
It's like, I have to be the Cypher.
And we do find out in the Heresy why the Lion Sword gets broken. And how.
Oh, did we find that out? I kind of forgot.
It happens in the third Dark Angels novel at the end of it. Oh, fuck. I can't even remember what it was called. Yeah, no, I've completely forgotten what it's called. It's the third Dark Angels novel in, like, that Imperium Secundus plotline. Where, like, the whole book is basically the Lion trying to find Kurz and capture him.
Oh, right, yeah.
And yeah.
Doesn't Curse smash it?
No, he does not. We can talk about that later, but yeah. I think that pretty much is it for us. We've sort of chatted for like an hour and a half. I'm sure people don't want to hear me talk all day. But, you know, there are weirdos out there. Maybe that's someone's kink. I'm not anyone to judge.
Well, kink shaming is my kink.
Yeah, if someone wants to use me in their fantasies, they're more than welcome. It's their loss.
I could deal with less fan fiction. That'd be cool.
Alright,
I think I just damned myself.
Thank you very much for joining me today, Alexis. I do.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Hopefully, it was something different and we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, and it's been awesome. As for everybody listening, I'm Alexis Ego Queen. Love you guys. Bye.
And thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you all next time.